Hi, mamas. Welcome back to another episode of Mom's Abilities. Today's topic is something that came as a surprise to me also after I gave birth. Had I known it before giving birth, maybe I could use it too. I would like to talk about this in today's episode with an expert, Layla, and she is a hypnobirthing educator. She will be talking about everything hypnobirthing, how does it benefit, and what are the tools and techniques that are available to moms. But before we dive deep into this, let me tell you, if you haven't subscribed already, this is the time. Go subscribe so that you don't miss any of these amazing episodes that we are creating for you. Welcome to Mom's Abilities, Layla. I'm so happy to have you here today.
I'm so happy to be here, Jeta. Thank you for
Before
reaching
we
out.
dive deep into the actual conversation, I would just like you to give a little bit of introduction about yourself so that the audience can follow us.
Of course, yes. So I'm Layla Dabir. I'm a nutritionist as well as a certified prenatal hypnobirthing educator. I'm a mom of two little boys, and I'm based out of Toronto. I started doing this mostly, I think it's kind of, same with you. Once you enter this world of pregnancy and motherhood, perspectives really do shift.
Right.
And the types of support and the education and the types of things that we do, our eyes open up to so many different other possibilities.
Yeah.
Mom's abilities. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, really diving into wanting to create a community that's holistic, so integrative of all different scopes, to alleviate stress and fear and encourage confidence and community and optimal wellness was really the goal for me with Mumello. So yeah, that's how I kind of started it. I've been in this integrative health industry for a long time, just over 20 years now.
Wow.
And so, and then getting into Mumello, I became pregnant with my first, and I was, oh my God, I want to do something. I want to be a midwife. I want to be a doula.
You
And
were
then
thinking all this when you got pregnant?
with when I, towards my third
Wow.
trimester of my first pregnancy, I was like, I want to do something
Yeah.
that, can support
Okay.
this.
Third trimester, you have had it's like a long way you've come for your journey, like pregnancy journey, and that's the time when you see like, oh, I had no awareness about this, or I was
Yeah.
not like very well aware about that. Certain tools and resources that are not available, or sometimes we are just not aware about it, right?
Yes.
And kind of that's the whole purpose of Mom's Abilities too, because me personally, there were a lot of things that I was not aware of, right?
Yes.
And I thought, okay, this is my first baby. Hopefully, I can use it for the second one if I plan to have. But for other moms who are right now in their journey and they have like questions or, some kind of confusions, like what's the best thing for me to do right now, they can only decide once they know what's available for them, right?
Yes.
So that's the whole purpose. And for hypnobirthing, honestly, I was like so amazed that this is something that you really don't need to go take, like, it's like so natural. There's something about natural, like, I was amazed. If I knew about it, I would definitely, choose to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm myself also trying to understand as we talk to the listeners and educate them, if we talk about hypnobirthing in specific.
So hypnobirthing as a prenatal class. So I mean, first we should address the name. I mean, hypnobirthing insinuates there's this level of hypnotization that occurs, which I have a little beef with the term because while it's accurate, we already have, I guess this is a good segue into the other aspect of it, is we already have preconceived notions of what hypnosis means.
Yeah.
And when it comes to this I think learning what hypnosis or hypno represents within the word of hypnobirthing, it helps because hypnosis, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, which is something that's repeated in the hypnobirthing classes. Hypnosis is just a very deep state of relaxation, which allows you to go into a suggestible state, which happens to many or most, if not all people, at least a few times a day. It could happen while you're driving, like
Just get
highway
zoned
hypnosis.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in your zone.
Yeah.
Things are parasympathetic. Things are happening involuntary, like they're just happening within your body. When you daydream, when you're, in the zone of a book, these kinds of things. It's just, or when you're just waking up or just about to fall asleep, just these very deep states of relaxation as hypnosis. And the goal is to do that because when you're in a very deep state of relaxation, also the biochemistry that's within your body, that state of relaxation allows for, it's called rest and digest. So you can digest, you can repair. Your body is working on all the things it needs to bring health. Right? It also has happiness hormones, things like this, when you're in a deep state of relaxation, as opposed to stress and tension. So this is also part of it. We'll get into it a little bit deeper too, but it's a practice. So hypnobirthing is both, a combination of techniques, education, and a philosophy to reach a state of deep relaxation, to essentially eliminate the critical factor in your mind so that you can, normalize and relearn what normal birth, the possibilities of normal birth are, and also to achieve the birth outcome that you want to have. Now, that could range anywhere from elective C-section that makes you feel, that brings peace to your nervous system, which is going to be actually the most healthful state to be in. And in some who want, free birth in either at home or in a birth center, whatever they prefer. So the range is wide, but the goal is essentially to alleviate the stress and the fear, learn about your body in a way that you can recalibrate into a state of relaxation as well. And utilize those techniques. Honestly, the techniques learned in hypnobirthing can be used in all aspects of life, right? Because when we reach a state of relaxation, we are able to increase love hormones like oxytocin, endorphins, happy anti-inflammatory hormones. And those are the states in which we can create health for yourself and others. We can regulate, we can digest properly, we can repair muscle tissue better, we can sleep better. So everything just happens better when you're in that state. So essentially it's, how do we achieve that?
Yeah.
By learning about our bodies, our babies' bodies, so that we can know what's happening and how to achieve what we want to achieve. And then the techniques to achieve a positive, healthy state to make sure that that happens. It has been shown, there's fewer medical intervention required when hypnobirthing, when these types of techniques are exercised and utilized. And it's also because of that. When we're in a state of fear or stress, we do have the biochemistry, then the other side comes out. There's higher cortisol, there's higher catecholamines. Catecholamines are inflammatory markers. They elicit it's like a cascade of responses from the body. So, and it's kind of like a balance.
Yeah.
So when stress hormones and inflammatory markers are higher, the other ones are lower because they have to be. They go up so that the body is signaled to do a different set of activities.
Yeah.
The blood goes to the extremities. Some inflammatory kind of behaviors of the body happen where the blood rushes everywhere else for your fight or flight, right? So, and there's not enough room for these kind of happy, healing, anti-inflammatory hormones. When you can raise the relaxation and the other side, these hormones come up and these automatically will go down. It's kind of like this.
Got it.
So if you feel this going up, if you can utilize, if you knew what's happening in the body and you knew some techniques that you can choose from, it's like having tools in your toolkit, then you can bring these up and these will go down.
Yeah.
Okay? And it also becomes kind of like chicken or the egg. What happens first?
Right.
Is it that yeah, sometimes you can create this on your own and this goes up and this goes down. Sometimes naturally this happens,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes naturally we're cuddling and we're watching funny movies and we're
Yeah.
with friends and our loved ones, and these are naturally up and we don't really have to worry.
Yeah.
But when it's not naturally happening, and then you can learn
Techniques,
to
yeah.
make it happen yourself. So there's an element of being in control, and then also an element of utilizing what we know to make it happen naturally too.
Right. You know, when I heard about hypnobirthing, I was trying to kind of relate it with just the process before birth. You know, could be in second trimester, third trimester, but I'm just trying to understand the way you explained it. It sounds like it could be such a useful tool after birth too in postpartum recovery. You know, when we talk about postpartum is something I wanted to talk in the end, but just because the way you explained it, like the stress hormones go up and the happy and love hormones go down, right? And then
Yeah.
it's vice versa. But imagine, like, we all know about postpartum mood disorders, right? Everybody goes through so many different kind of moods. New moms are so exhausted, sleep deprived, you know, and all sort of things happening around them, and naturally their stress hormone is way up, I believe.
Yeah.
And yes, we know that skin to skin and bonding with the baby could bring the happy hormones up, but some of them are not able to do that, right? Not everybody is able to bond with the baby right away. So, in terms of this situation, when the stress hormones are up, postpartum recovery, we could use hypnobirthing tools in the postpartum recovery too. Would you say that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, right? I think it's good for everyone, men,
Yeah.
women,
Yeah.
children. I mean, to this day, I'm trying to, every time the kids have an outburst, I'm trying to utilize some of those techniques. You know, imagine this.
Yeah.
Imagine your favorite place in
Yeah.
nature. And then I think one of my friends, she also says, you know, smell the flowers
Yeah.
and blow out the candles. You know, like there's so many different
I know.
mini moments we can
Yeah.
utilize.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's definitely helpful in both. I mean, you can't say, I mean, this is also part of what I mean by integrating healthcare. I mean, postpartum is, there's so many variables, you know, and one of the things is it's all kind of connected. So I will always say that what you do, you know, the way baby's conceived really impacts the way your pregnancy goes.
Yeah.
The way your pregnancy experience goes really impacts the way your birth experience happens. And the way your birth experience happens can really impact your postpartum as well. And so, you know, it really does lead to all of them. And even the way you manage your postpartum, whether it be a positive or negative experience, also leads to your parenting journey.
Yeah.
So it's all very much connected. You know, birth itself and becoming a mom, this is long game, right?
It
you're,
is.
you're making a lifelong commitment
It's a
of having
forever,
a child,
yeah.
right? And so even the actual act of birth itself is like taking on a marathon. You know, if I chose to go like, okay, you know what? Next year I want to run the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
Well, if I said that and then I just kind of stayed in my head and I, you know, like wrote notes and did all these things, I'm, you know, when the day comes of the marathon, I'm also going to be quite afraid
Yeah.
because I'm not actually prepared.
Prepared, exactly.
Right? There's a lot of things that go into preparing for a marathon. You have to learn about the foods you might take to optimize your energy levels and your endurance. You might also want to, you know, train. You'll want to, you know, I won't be able to run that
Yeah.
many miles, 21 miles, 42 kilometers, you know, things like this. I'm going to have to maybe run a mile a day now. Maybe take it up to 5 miles a day eventually. Maybe go up to 10, you know. So the same holds true.
Yeah.
The sooner you start to practice, whether your journey begins right after birth, whether it begins during pregnancy, whether it begins prior to that, I mean, in life, you're going to have to start practicing and implementing from whenever you know. When you know better, you do better, right?
Yeah. I
And-
think the sooner we start it, the better it is.
Of
Because
course.
as the term suggests, like, people could think hypnobirthing, we have to do it when we go closer to our birth, right? Closer to labor and delivery. But it's actually you're setting the foundation well in advance, could be like first trimester itself, and prepare yourself, right? You don't have to wait until the end.
Yes,
That's
for
not gonna
sure.
work, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
It's just, each time though takes some time to sink in.
Yeah.
So we can't generally, usually people will look at like prenatal classes from mid pregnancy onward.
Right,
And it's
exactly.
mostly because we really do need to like sink in. Sometimes, I personally, so I had a loss. I was pregnant before my first baby, and I had a miscarriage with that pregnancy. And when I was pregnant again with my second, and I wasn't even sure if I was gonna be able to, like, you never know, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't been ever trying to get pregnant before, and I wasn't trying at the time. So then I thought, okay, maybe, but I also didn't want to try getting pregnant again because I had just had a miscarriage, so I wanted to kind
There's
of
a
sit with
fear,
that for a
yeah.
bit. And I wasn't sure, like, if I end up having another loss, was I prepared to just do this right now? I
Right.
kind of needed a minute. And then when I got pregnant with the second, and many are like this too, not about the loss, but you kind of, is it superstitious to tell people that you're pregnant, to not tell them? Or is it superstitious to tell them, not tell them? Do you want to wait? Maybe you want to hold on to the news a little bit on your own, maybe with your partner, maybe with just a select few. So you're not always thinking, okay, now I got to get prepared, So
Yeah.
each stage or each, I guess even with postpartum, each stage has you want to sit with it a little
Exactly.
bit. Let it kind of settle in, process it, get to the next one, So yeah, I mean, I think, of course, the earlier the better, or the more practice you get in. Of course, the idea is to wire your brain.
Yeah.
When it comes to hypnobirthing, the practicing, even when you think about your kids, like whatever fires together, wires together is an expression, right?
Yeah.
And so the more time you fire that together, the more, anchored you are in that wiring.
Right.
And so the more second nature it can be. I think it's beneficial to learn about the techniques and the tools, and even your prenatal class, like what's happening with your body, the way the baby comes out, how it's twisting. Because if you can imagine it, you'll know at least you'll eliminate some of the things that you may think are abnormal and normal,
Yeah.
which also alleviates a lot of that fear too, because we fear the unknown a lot of the time.
Yes, absolutely.
So just getting educated can pacify a lot of those anxieties. But yeah, you want to give everything its own season
Yeah.
also.
And that's very required, right?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be rushed. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
So if I'm just thinking, if we are talking about hypnobirthing specific to people would be imagining like a vaginal birth, right? But not necessarily you end up there. Do you also have clients who are not really planning a vaginal birth, but they have like a scheduled C-section, or let's say they are planning to take the epidural, but they still want to use the tools from hypnobirthing?
Absolutely. So with hypnobirthing and as a prenatal class, I mean, the tools, again, like we said, can be used at any time. And even whatever your intended birth process, the idea is that by utilizing these tools and techniques and the philosophy, that actually will happen be more likely to happen, because there will be fewer interventions, fewer causes of stress. One thing to keep in mind is, I think you mentioned this in one of your questions too. There's a fear, tension, pain model,
Yes.
right, in
Yeah.
hypnobirthing, and it's a big part of like even the earlier classes of the hypnobirthing curriculum. And it's whenever there's fear, there's increased tension, and whenever there's increased tension, there's inevitably more fear. Because when fear happens, and this goes into the hypnobirthing too, and what we're talking about, these kind of, the biochemistry of the body. When you think something, be it, when you think of a delicious snack and you start to salivate, or when you are scared of the dark, or you think, oh, it's nighttime and it's whatever, and you think of a fear, there's things that your body will do physiologically Like you'll start to sweat more, or you'll salivate, or and when it comes to the food, or your heart rate goes up. When your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. These things happen physiologically, even if you're in the exact same physical situation.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we cannot separate the mind from the body. They are one. The
Yeah.
mind is in the body. The mind and influences the body. And so there's always going to be a biochemical reaction and a cascade that goes from mental, whether it be visualized or thought or whatever the case may be. And then there's a cascade of biochemistry that leads to behavior, a physical outcome.
Right.
And so things like, even if you practice sometimes these things and you have a little bit of fear, and unfortunately the rhetoric is scary. You know, when you think about the hospital, the only healthy people entering a hospital are pregnant women.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you go into hospital, like everything else is built for pathology and urgent care and
Right.
things like this, acute needs, you know, whether it be an incident, physical or otherwise, or a pathology
It's like
disease.
some emergency mostly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the space is built for that. The bright lights, the alarms, the signals, the you know, the way it looks, the sanitization, the sterilization, all of that is built for that type of environment. So, and it's fine, because I feel like people should feel rest assured and more secure in their pregnancies, knowing that they have modern medicine to support them. But it almost has the alternate effect, because the way it looks feels a little bit scary. Like, what if something happens? We already go into it a little bit anxious.
Yeah.
Automatically. And that's a mild, like, to say best case, you're a little anxious. And worst case, there's a lot of people who live in fear and terror of what's going to happen to them. So
Right.
there's a big range. But either way, at the very best case, there's a little bit of anxiety, or when you want to call it for the sake of, you know, better vocabulary, excitement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's always that. And so when you go into something like that, and there's inevitably, you know, your blood pressure. If someone says to you, you know, sadly, I've had, you know, doctors say to a client, like, do you want your baby to die? And basically, like, if you don't do this, this will
Yeah.
happen.
I know.
A really big part of the hypnobirthing prenatal class is self-advocacy. And one of the biggest reasons, actually, that I did get into it was, one of the stats that drove me to it was 1 in 3 women deals with birth trauma and
yeah.
faces birth trauma.
Yes.
And trauma is perceived, right? So again, one person who wants an elective C-section, an unmedicated vaginal delivery is terrifying.
Yeah.
That's very traumatic for somebody who didn't want it, wasn't expecting it.
Yes.
And, you know, and then alternatively, someone who really wants and is afraid of needles, afraid of anesthesia, doesn't, you know, is afraid of being in the hospital. You know, an elective C-section or a C-section is very traumatic for them.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep that in mind, because it's not birth trauma by any one thing being negative. There shouldn't be a label for that.
Yes.
But at the same time, knowing how to ask questions, like if someone says, you know, oh, you know, the heart rate's going up, you know, well, asking questions like, how long do we have to decide? What does
Yeah.
it mean if the heart rate goes up? Just asking a few simple questions to get a better picture of what's happening can already take, you know, oh my God, this happened to me, to, well, this happened, but and then we chose to do this
Yeah.
as a, you know, to make us feel more comfortable, to make sure mom and baby were safe. This is the route we chose to go.
Yeah.
Is not a traumatic, like, that's not birth trauma. It's just a different outcome. But understanding, you know, how long do I have to make this decision?
Yeah.
Can I have a few minutes alone with my partner
Exactly.
to chat about it?
Yeah.
What's the outcome if I do it? What's the outcome if I don't? How long do I have? And give us a second. Just those few moments. It could be as little as 1 minute to 10 minutes, but that moment is a huge recalibration as to, it's more of a response.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Rather than being reactionary, without being able to take a minute to think and then feel like people are doing things to you and baby. And oftentimes when you talk about postpartum, mom guilt is real, and it starts the moment you become pregnant. Like, did I eat this? Should I not have eaten this? Am I too much caffeine? Have I not have enough caffeine? La 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 la. It really starts so much.
Yeah.
And postpartum, you know, again, it can range from mild baby blues, which is kind of inevitable to some degree.
Yeah.
And it can go up to your point, like, you know, postpartum psychosis and on.
Yeah.
And so that happens with this hindsight of, maybe I should have done that. Why didn't I think to ask that? And that will happen anyways.
Yeah, it will happen anyways.
But at the same time, if you have some tools and you were able to ask some questions and you knew, like, you had some very strong conversations with your birth partner or your birth team, then you'll feel a lot more able to say, well, this is the outcome that happened. It's just a different lens.
So in hypnobirthing, in the course that you're providing, there's a part where you talk about self-advocacy, right?
Yeah.
I think it is so important because when we talk about birth trauma, it is not really the birth experience always. It could be anything. It could be a certain situation, how you felt, right?
That's right.
It could be a room, like you think about what I felt in that room. Like, you know, rushed things, like people running around me, no, we have to do this right now. And then if you have those questions like, I wish I had asked back then, I wish I had not taken, that's a lifelong regret, right? For some people, they just can't forget, like, I wish I had done this. So self-advocacy is so important, and if that's a part of this whole course, I think it's like amazing. We don't really realize how important it is, right? And when we don't know what tools are available, we naturally just think like, okay, that's not in my control. I don't think I was the best person to advocate for this. Maybe whatever they said was the best choice, right? Whatever the doctor said or midwife said. So knowing things yourself in order to, you know, ask questions like, no, I don't want this, or why I have to do this, is also so important. And so I'm realizing that hypnobirthing in general is not just limited to birthing. There's so much more around it.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's so important to know about it beforehand.
Yeah. And knowing that, you know, when we talk about self-advocacy, it's not specifically just you doing all the work during your birth.
Yeah.
The whole purpose is, again, preparing for birth prepares you for postpartum as well. And preparing for birth includes knowing that you're never going to know everything.
Yeah.
The purpose of taking a prenatal class is to give you confidence in your body's ability to do something that is, you know, it's a physiologically normal function, like pooping. I mean, our entire species relies on birth, right? I mean, without it, we wouldn't even exist. There's only two certainties in life. There's life, and then there's death. And so this is a highly transformative and very inevitable part of our anatomy as women. And even for those who have trouble doing that, there's the fertility aspect, but just the function of your body is there, right? And so for those who are birthing, anyways, at this point, there is so just realizing and normalizing what's happening in the body. But that advocacy piece is, how do you create the people who are going to advocate for you as well? And if I don't know everything, who are my tools? Like, how? Where are they? What are they? And who are they? Because even experts, specialists, OBGs, YNs, OBs, things like this, midwives, not one scope knows everything.
Right.
Okay? And so you as one individual, it's important to rely on your partner for some conversations, rely on the birth team, whether it be an OB or a midwife, adding a doula or not. Maybe it's an acupuncturist later. Maybe you know somebody from during your pregnancy, you saw an acupuncturist that's going to support you in your recovery postpartum. Maybe you have an osteopath. Basically, even if you don't utilize them, having a lactation consultant, a postpartum sleep doula, maybe having food deliveries. That's on everything on your roster,
Yeah. Yeah.
just as a tool. Like it's like the yellow pages. I don't know if anybody knows what they
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
They were around when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
the yellow pages, or just like the Google
Right.
that you need, that you've chosen, that's there.
And I think you have that in Mumello, right? You have a dedicated directory too, where people can find whatever they're looking for.
Yes.
That's another amazing part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of Mumello too, is to be kind of like a liaison, to really show women that you don't have to know everything, even if it's true that education and learning more helps you alleviate your fears and anxieties.
Yeah.
But so does but the thing is that education is different for each person.
Right.
What you didn't know about and what you need to know about to feel confident in yourself is different than what I needed to know to make me
Exactly.
feel confident in my ability. And so we want to make sure that all that information is there. You get to choose what you need to know that makes you feel confident, but also that you can choose the resources that you need. Maybe I have a mother-in-law and a mom who cook for me once a week regularly, each one, and I have food, and I don't need a food delivery service, but you might. Or maybe I don't have that. I don't have a lactation consultant, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And someone else isn't, So somebody's going to formula feed, someone's going to breastfeed, someone's going to have a hard time, someone's not. So you just need to know, how do I find the information I don't know?
Yeah.
So you could feel confident. If I don't know it, I know someone else does. And even for that, self-advocacy is, do you have people that you trust
Yeah.
around you? They know you. They know what your preferences are.
Right.
So that at the time, because you don't want to be, you need to be in your zone. Whether you're having a C-section and going under an anesthesia, whether you are getting epidural and just feeling the pressure but not the pain, whether you are birthing fully naturally with unmedicated, you need to be in your zone.
Yeah.
Because if your heart rate goes up, blood goes to the extremities, baby's not going to get as much blood. Baby will then potentially go into distress. Maybe there's going to be an intervention. Like all of these things will add up regardless. So you want to feel trusting in your partner. You want to trust your birth team. You want to trust that you've already advocated for yourself beforehand or at the time, that these people are also going to help you advocate for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some techniques, like
Tell me.
just basic techniques, because our listeners, some of them who don't know anything about it, they might be, using this episode as the deciding factor whether it's for them or not. So I want to know
sure.
about certain techniques, like you mentioned heart rate, right? Heart rate is racing. And that's something, whether you talk about before birth, after birth, especially when you are in labor and delivery, it's definitely going to happen. The heart racing is something so common. So if we talk about that in particular, how can we bring that in control, and what are the techniques that we can use?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's about 4 or 5 main techniques that we cover in hypnobirthing, and they're mostly because, yes, obviously if you do all of them, they'll work really well together, but also because some techniques don't resonate with others, with someone as it does with someone else. Some women really find various breath work techniques very anchoring. Some, they need a visualization.
Yeah.
For that, they need to close their eyes and imagine something else. Some will do like guided meditations. Some affirmations really work well with them. I mean, I believe that all of them work well for anybody who wants to practice it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we all have tendencies. And some people get anxious when they close their eyes when they're out somewhere else, right? So
Yeah.
they don't want to necessarily do that. They want to maybe keep their eyes open. Maybe they can look in a mirror and do some affirmations or different postures, So there's affirmations. You can either create your own. We go through, how to create them, whether it's being positive, present, like what goes into creating an ideal, effective affirmation. There's also Mumello has a a pack of 30 that are specifically for birth and postpartum. We also have a pack of 5, so there's those. There's digital, hard copies, but you can also look them up, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So there's affirmations, there's breath work that there are. They touch on calm breath. They also touch on birth breathing, so which comes into when there's actual. We use different vocabulary in hypnobirthing too to avoid any kind of stigmas, but the birth breathing, which is what we would call when you're doing when you have contractions. I do air quotes for that because we want to avoid certain kind of vocabulary. But then there's laboring breathing, and then there's birth breathing, which is the actual time of birth.
Wow, those both are different.
The push breathing. Yeah, they differ. So calm breathing I find is the most common as well, because it's what sets the stage for everything else. So it's kind of like you start there and then you can kind of get everywhere else.
Yeah.
So calm breathing, usually you'll inhale for 4, exhale for 8. One thing I always say is even if you forget the timing, if you can always remember that a longer exhale will signal your body that it's calm and that it's safe. So when you think about when you're jogging or you're doing like a cardio workout, your inhales are like, it's kind of like either equal pace or you have more, because you're trying to get more oxygen in. So you're inhaling pretty frequently. Whereas if you were to slow the exhale, regardless of whether it be, through the nose and out the mouth, but you can inhale for 4, and exhale for 8, and you can usually purse your lips to make it slower. But the longer the exhale, and they all play a role because they signal the vagal nerve, which, I feel like we could talk for days, especially because hypnobirthing itself is like a 15-hour class, but then you get into like the physiology of like the vagus nerve, which I know somebody, which I follow, a practitioner, an integrative practitioner, a functional practitioner who has a podcast that's it's called the Vagus Clinic. So like it focuses on that nerve. And that really is a huge part of getting into the parasympathetic nervous systems, like relaxed state.
What is this nerve related to though?
The vagal nerve actually is one of the largest nerves. It's like the base. It dictates heart rate, digestion, really a lot of the parasympathetic states and involuntary like movements of the body, breathing, heart rate, blood flow, digestion. And so when it can come from, like humming, come from long exhales, it can come from, and in birthing we talk like anytime your voice, if you want to like moan, deep sounds, the vibration will also stimulate the vagal nerve, which is also going to be signaling like the parasympathetic system, and basically telling your body that it's safe and calm, and that's what you want. Whenever you have this cascade, your endorphins can go up, your oxytocin is released. Oxytocin is what's responsible for starting contractions, but it's the love and bonding hormone. And it also has some anti-inflammatory effects. And so basically when they say induced or augmenting the birth or delivery, it's the synthetic form of oxytocin, which is Pitocin that's given to you, right? So, we can always kind of, your body's rhythm, the natural cascade, is more likely to occur in this parasympathetic relaxed state.
Got it.
And so we talked about this fear, tension, pain. If you can, and it doesn't matter, it's like a cycle.
It's a cycle,
so it goes fear, tension, pain, and it goes in wherever you cut it. So if you offer an epidural and you reduce the pain, you can start cutting that cycle, because then there's no pain, then there won't be as much fear, then there won't be as much tension, something like that, right? Or if you can reduce the fear and get into a relaxed state by utilizing some of these techniques, then you can reduce the tension, which then reduces the pain. And so it's all a cycle that you can somewhere be a cycle breaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Do you have any clients who told you like any success stories that with this birth work or any other technique that they might have used, right? Did they
Yeah.
feel like they were able to go through the pain or not feel the pain?
Yeah, I find the majority of success comes from that initial stage of, you know, it's starting and you're feeling it. And then if you have utilized any of the techniques, whether they be the visualizations, and usually it's all of them. We try to combine
Yeah.
them all. So we have visuals of like, the blooming baby from the flower. The visuals, some women resonate better with like actually being able to imagine the baby in the canal, which we do a lot of that too. So visualization, affirmations, the breath work techniques, the meditations, the being told, like having those signals too. Utilizing those techniques can allow them to be more comfortable for a longer period of time, if not throughout the whole thing.
Got it.
So, getting into the state of, yes, either birthing vaginally unmedicated, but also even those who do have epidural, being able to reduce the trauma that they see,
Yeah.
reduce the number of interventions. Maybe many women want the epidural, right? This is the majority of women I find they know that their practitioner is going to be birthing them at a hospital, like they're going to be
Yeah.
birthing in a hospital. They're affiliated to one or more of the hospitals at their health situation, so they go there, and they're open to the epidural, and so usually it just becomes a more pleasant experience. So they may not necessarily be, they don't necessarily need to be induced, or it doesn't need to be augmented, or there isn't this sense of fear or urgency, but they have a more relaxed or confident. I
Yeah.
find the biggest thing is feeling confident in the outcome
Yeah.
that they've chosen.
Exactly.
And that's typically the case. I've had, I had a client who specifically chose hypnobirthing because they knew they were going to have to be induced at a
They wanna
certain
keep
date,
themselves
and
calm.
they were anxious
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
And so, they wanted to do the hypnobirthing to learn all those tools for exactly during the pregnancy.
Yeah.
They had also had a loss, and they wanted to make sure that they were able to regulate and have the baby healthily. So they were utilizing a lot of those techniques during that time, during the pregnancy as well. And we had created a few personalized meditation readings for during the actual induction process, which really supports them too. Alternatively, I have had somebody who had an elective C-section. They knew they were going to have a C-section. They originally didn't want it, but they knew they had to. And so they also utilized a lot of those techniques for more empowerment and relaxation as
Yeah.
well, to prevent any other, unforeseen health intervention come
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
So I think it's very, I can just easily say that when we are thinking of hypnobirthing, let us not just think of having a vaginal birth, like associate hypnobirthing with a vaginal birth, but instead associate it with keeping yourself relaxed, calm, and confident. And that could be in any sort of situation. It could be any birth methods, right? Doesn't
Absolutely.
necessarily have to be like a vaginal birth. So like you said, like clients who have had like a scheduled c-section, or they knew they were going to get induced, imagine like they would have more anxiety than a person who's not even talking about those terms, right?
Yes.
How important it is to feel relaxed.
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorites actually too was that one of my clients really wanted to have a home birth, but knew that because their partner wanted to do it more so in a hospital. And so she was so determined to not go to the hospital until the very end,
Right.
that she actually, using the techniques, really, it was only half an hour Like it was, they were worried she was going to have the baby in the hallway, but it was, she utilized this hypnobirthing all the way till the end,
Wow.
just because, and it was, she was able to, she kind of stayed in a zone, and it was beautiful to hear and see about it. So it's really choose your own adventure. I think, not just with the hypnobirthing, but even the birth. But I think with the hypnobirthing type of prenatal class, the goal is, yes, exactly that, to increase confidence, to rewrite kind of the stigmas and all of the fear model that's been placed on us for generations, to normalize the beauty,
Yeah.
the potential of the beauty that is within the birthing, and definitely that confidence piece of feeling empowered, confident, and regardless of the outcome, it's your body, the baby, and you guys are going to be safe. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest aspect of it that we can say.
Right.
for
And
sure.
hypnobirthing is a term that we know now, but women have been giving birth like for centuries, and
Yes.
there were times when we did not have such, hospitals and midwives or even OBs. We did not have C-sections like centuries ago, and I think these techniques were already in practice for like many centuries, right?
Yes.
Now we have a term and people have more awareness about it, thanks to, I would say, like social media too, right?
Yeah.
It's so good to know like all the tools that you have, and then only when you can use them.
100%, 100%. I think a really big analogy that I use too is that, like, I always liken it to, your GPS or maps
Yeah.
on the road.
Yes.
And, different people like different routes, like
Yeah.
my husband really likes highway driving. I really like the scenic route.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would prefer, even if it's going to take me 5 extra minutes, but I won't be crammed in highway traffic,
Yeah.
and I'll take the route here. The practitioners you're with, even from a good place, like very well intentioned, they're going to guide you the best way they know how. So the way they know how to keep you safe, where they excel, where their areas of expertise can shine, right? And so they're always going to want to reroute you like that GPS voice, like you're going to go on this road, but they're going to be like, U-turn, like back to this, And there's a lot of different routes. So learning how to communicate that or find the practitioner that is willing to go your route is a really big deal. Or being able to communicate that when it's a practitioner that isn't. That's the self-advocacy piece.
Yeah.
And really trusting that there is a route to where you need to be safely, as long as you're getting there safe. Like, you're still wearing your seatbelt and you're still, following the road rules, right? You're just doing it in a different way, and that's totally fine. There's so many different ways to get to one destination. And they really do just want to, they know better what they're doing best. So it doesn't make them wrong, mean, ill-intentioned, but they're also going to have their own set of anxieties and fears if you're not on their route.
Yeah.
So we just kind of want to make sure we recognize that, because they're not necessarily, I don't think it's their intention to scare and do it in a negative way. I think it's just they have their own fears about what's happening, if
Yeah.
that's the case too, right?
Right.
And so you really just want to make sure you know what are the risks and that you have a team that's going to support you,
Yeah.
that's safe still in that way. Yeah. I was going to tell you something, but we'll get back to it, I guess.
I'm just thinking, like, if we think about preparing ourselves, right? Like, let's just say somebody's, like, a client comes to you. And we already discussed that there's no perfect time to start it whenever someone's ready. One person could be ready, like, as soon as they know they're pregnant. Yeah, I want to practice the
Yeah.
techniques right away. And another person might want to just stay there, let it sink in, be sure that, everything is right, and then start it at a later time. But how long does this course, how long somebody can be with you when you are providing those prenatal classes? And let's say, if we are talking about how many classes are there, and how do you divide those into the journey from preparing for birth to labor?
Yeah, amazing.
What does that look like exactly?
So usually it's from mid-pregnancy onward. And I don't say that to your point. If someone wants to practice this earlier, it's always welcome. It's great. But usually it's like mid-pregnancy onward. The hypnobirthing class is broken into 5 sessions. That's about 2.5 hours long each. Now, I have done it in different sections, but usually I'll do it more like I do also provide private prenatal coaching. So for those who are on a time crunch or they don't have as much time and it's not specifically hypnobirthing that they're looking for, but they do need an element of education and preparation and they don't have as much time, we can always work on that. Like I do a minimum of 4 to 6 hours a class as well. But this is a 15-hour class that's broken up into 5 sessions that are 2.5 hours each. It's ideally done that way because taking little bites and then practicing it and implementing the things you learn in each session and building on it and allowing it to accumulate over time is a lot more effective in it being a lasting and effective change. It's kind of like that wiring and firing, firing and wiring together. So it takes a little bit of time because you want to make sure that, it's called positive expectancy. You can create a positive expectancy because right now, generally, like I mentioned, when you find out you're pregnant, there's so many thoughts. Keep the baby's going to, is the baby okay? Is the baby safe? Am I going to be? And then once you pass the first hurdle, then it's like, now what do I do? What do I do? What's going to happen? The fear, oh my God, now the baby, my body has to go through this. Now my body's changing. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. What does this mean? There's so many things. And we've created historically in the last 100 years, I would say, this kind of negative expectancy. We think it's definitely going to hurt and it's definitely going to turn out like I'm going to be distraught or there is always an intervention and if it doesn't go the way I expect it, I can't plan and I can't visualize because then it's not going to go the way I visualized and so forget it. So this is all, we're trying to recalibrate that. So instead of all this negative expectancy, we establish and show that there is a way to create a positive expectancy. So that's how it starts, really, the class. And so we want you to practice that a little bit. And it's not even practice, but maybe, sometimes the glass shatters or the bubble bursts and then you can't unsee it.
Yes.
So usually we start that way. And then the first week or so is you noticing it, realizing it. Like, all the information you usually get from outside is horror stories or they never say, oh, my birth was beautiful, it went perfectly. Like nobody really shares those, which in actuality majority of pregnancies and births go pretty smoothly, right? Majority of them. It's a small minority, anywhere from like 5 to 15% that actually, like really 5 that really need already going into it a real extenuating circumstance, a special circumstance. And then the others that have interventions that they potentially could have been preventable, but it's okay. Like let's say they were, many women are okay with them, So majority of women, I would say 80 to 90% of women are having, a normal pregnancy and birth process. But and the number goes up of the interventions because the information we hear is all about the interventions. Because they're the special stories. And so most times people talk about, oh, my pregnancy, this, and this happened. And so we all have this. And then when we watch movies, it's the screaming getting into the room and the terror. And so not to say that those don't exist, but it's not the majority, but it is the majority we see. And so recreating that positive expectancy around birth is really important to start with.
Absolutely. I mean, and one thing that I want to say right now to the listeners is that, when we see somebody's pregnancy, we think like, okay, that person had like such a great experience. So we try to imagine ourselves in that situation, which is good. You have to you have to imagine positive, right? But then don't kind of compare your journey with someone else, because then if it's not happening the same way, then there's like so much disappointment. Or let's say somebody is looking at someone's postpartum journey, right? There could be someone who is having like very hard time coping up with the changes, right? But it might not be the same in your case. So one thing that is so important is that don't compare yourself with other people's journey that you're seeing. Somebody could have like a very beautiful birthing journey, somebody could have like a traumatic journey. So it's really like trying to, of course, recalibrate first of all. Just
Yeah.
remove all those thoughts out of your mind and kind of just be relaxed and calm, not compare yourself to anybody else. That's so important, because like you said, there's so many the majority of the stories that are out there are not really pleasant to, in terms of postpartum I'm talking. We see like people struggling a lot. You might not struggle like that, so just not compare yourself with them in that moment.
And what's causing their struggle may not cause you struggle.
Exactly.
And maybe someone is having a really beautiful postpartum, but their personality, their partner, their
Support
team,
system.
it could be very different. And maybe if you were in their situation, you might not be having as positive an experience. So to your point, it's all like same with trauma. It's relative, because what you perceive as trauma is not the same as what someone else does.
Yeah.
So comparing it would be so, it's a moot point. It's like,
Yes.
there's obviously some universal truths where, of course, having support is important, but you can make that too. Because sometimes you can have all the family, you can have in-laws and your own and like siblings, but maybe they're overbearing.
You still
maybe
feel
you're
alone.
struggling with boundaries.
Yeah.
Maybe, because that's a really big part of, like, I don't know about you, but learning how to establish a calm, loving boundary is very new to me.
Yeah. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
And I think when you have like support, let's say from your partner, certain things that you cannot do yourself,
Yeah.
set those boundaries, that's when the partners come in.
Yes.
So we don't talk much about partners, I've seen, but they really play like a very crucial role. Very,
Yeah.
very crucial.
And in hypnobirthing, there's a few lessons where it's almost mandatory for the partner to be there.
Wow.
Right? Because it's ideal for the partner to partake in the prenatal class, period, in general.
Yeah.
Because for them to understand what's happening to their partner's body,
Yeah.
how is this baby coming to life, like what's happening with them. Because people negate the fact that if you're in a loving partnership, that person wants to help you too. That person wants this child as well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of helpless when they're not part of it.
Yeah.
How can they support you? And there's so many ways. I heard someone this recently who was saying, the best way for the baby to come out is the same way the baby went in. Which is with love,
Yes.
with passion,
Yeah.
with support, with collaboration.
I get that.
Right?
Yes.
And there are so many ways, whether it be through offering those affirmations,
Yeah.
just being that voice in those readings sometimes, possibly advocating for you and in your place when you're in your zone. So it really does take. It could. I mean, in an ideal world, your partner would learn what's happening so that they are also not shocked, scared, fearful, because their behavior is also going to change
Right.
if they're worried about, oh my God, there's so much pressure here, or there's this liquid coming, or there's fluids. So them knowing is a big part of it too, and definitely playing a role in certain counter pressure movements and postures and positions. There's a lot of most of them are two-person positions in
Right.
birthing, right? And they do play a huge role in that. And to your point, like, one person's partner is not the same as another's.
Yeah.
So, might look all rosy, but some partners aren't as hands-on as others, and some are really very much involved. So, again, that whole comparison thing, maybe, it's a whole new game.
I think some of the partners really want to help, but they poor men, they don't know how to help, right? I think this is gonna also make them ready. This whole being in the class with the partner is gonna help the husbands or boyfriend, whatever it is, it's gonna help them prepare how to help the partner when they are in labor, and that's so
Yes.
important.
Yes.
You know, we don't want the partners going in the labor room being completely unaware of how they can help, because it's really the partner who's inside with you, right? And it's, I think it's like a very good point that this is not just for the moms to be, to, you know, educate themselves and learn the techniques, but also the partner has to be by your side in order to know how to help you, because they are just, men in general are people who only know logic and talk about rationals. They don't know these things, so we have to help them help us. I
Yeah.
remember I'm repeating this because I remember my husband telling me, like, you know, okay, come sit with me, you need to help me learn how to help you. What can I do to make you feel better? Because, you know, even in pregnancy, mostly women are just like so fussy and, you know, cranky, like, okay, I don't want you to do this around me, don't do this. Or we need to help them to help us. That's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Well, first of all, kudos
Yeah.
to your partner.
Yeah.
For wanting to do that.
Yeah.
And yes, it's, you know, there are a lot of loving partners who want to be involved. It's also, you know, mom begins bonding because it's their body. It's really hard. We, you know, with fathers, they want to bond with
Yeah.
baby too. And it does happen way earlier than we think if they're involved. But unfortunately, without the visual belly, it's hard for them to actually see it.
Yeah.
But this is all part of it. Bonding occurs, whether it's biological or not, through support and help. When you help someone from infancy, like change the diaper, or when you care for the mom, the baby, a mother, your parents, your sisters, like whatever, bonding occurs when you show care and support for someone,
Yeah.
whether it be a pet or an animal or anybody. And so this is a really important part, because not only do partners become closer together, like you bond more through that caring for each other as well.
Yeah.
And so do they with baby more because of it also. And the other thing too is that, you know, dads and moms and even like non-biological like family that comes that supports as well. You talked about postpartum. You know, communicating what your needs are is also very challenging.
Yeah.
So a big part of like hypnobirthing, affirmations, or really connecting to yourself, and something we're doing like with Mumello, we have these summer circles that we're doing. Really figuring out how to attune to yourself, learning what your own boundaries are, even before you learn to communicate it. But learning what your boundaries are, because you can recognize what's regulating your nervous system and getting you into a parasympathetic state so your body's functioning healthily.
Yeah.
Learning that, because we feel our body so much sooner than we know the words to use to share.
Yeah.
So even if he says, help me learn how to help you, if I'm not taking the time to really figure that out, I won't be able to communicate it well
Yeah.
either.
Right.
I won't be able to help him help me, or help whoever help me, whether it be my birth team. So that's a big part of it too, right? So like, you know, we have these summer circles, Mumello's doing summer circles. A big part of it is anchoring in the season you're in, learning how to ground, learning how to communicate with your nervous system, and how do you come from a place from that, rather than all like, you know, we're doing one with nourishment. So it's food, it's mindful nutrition, but
Yeah.
it's coming from a place of what feels great. And it's a combination of both convenience, health, nutrients,
Yeah.
as well as like the unit. A very holistic view of it, because
Yeah.
it's needed, right? And same thing. So communicating to him, how can I teach him how to help me? I don't even know. This is also a new thing for you.
Yeah.
So a big part of the prenatal classes, having conversations not just for birth but postpartum, so that you get to know each other in a way where maybe something is unforeseen.
Yeah.
Maybe I deal with something in postpartum that I didn't know I was going to deal with, but we're going to know how to navigate together.
Right.
And that's a big deal too, because postpartum, they have to know what to look for. It ranges, right? Baby
Yeah.
blues to beyond. And sometimes they don't know because they're sleeping. They don't know if you're actually sleeping or not. They don't
Yeah.
know if and you're still high functioning. Oftentimes, mom's like, well, I got to feed this, I got to do this. And you're almost like tired but wired
Right.
and not sleeping. So, yeah, preparing for those things comes from a place of, I don't know where I'll be, but this is how I'll communicate.
Yeah.
And this is how you can check in with me also is a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long we have
Yeah.
been talking. It's already 1. Can you believe?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I think
So
we
we've
covered
been-
like
we've
so
covered
much,
a lot,
right? I don't
yeah.
even want to refer to any of my questions because I know back of my mind we kind of talked
Yeah.
about all of it.
Well, you
I'm
can just scan and see if there's any. I think we covered quite a bit
yeah,
of the
because
questions you.
it's like naturally it came in the conversation. I did have like the comparison, like if people can do in vaginal and C-section, both they choose to do for both. Yes,
Yeah.
we did. Power of mind-body connection, we did.
Yeah.
And then cycle of fear, tension and pain, we kind of did everything. There's one thing that is still left. I was wondering if are there any myths or wow factors. We kind of discussed,
Yeah.
we did like wow factors, of course, no myths as such, right?
I think the myth is that it's only for, vaginal, unmedicated, free birth. I think that, like, you
Yeah.
don't have to be. There's a stigma around it, like you're this tree hugging, not wanting to do with anything with conventional medicine if you are doing
Right.
this class. So I think that's a
Yeah.
big myth. I think I think a big myth is that all birth is painful birth. I think because like the uterus is a muscle, just like your arm, just like your heart. No other muscle hurts when contracting, so I don't think that's the case. A lot of it's done due to the tension.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we could add some notes in there for other
Yeah.
myths, and
Yeah.
I think they can reach out to you. They can reach out to me.
Yeah.
Look at Mumello. Look at Mom's Abilities podcast for other
Yeah.
kind of information. And we'll link. I guess you'll
Yes,
link. We'll
yeah.
link. Whatever.
It's
is
really
offered.
funny, Layla, because when I started, I was trying to understand about hypnobirthing, and when we started the podcast, I really had an idea that we are talking about mothers and their pregnancy journey, postpartum journey. But when we are ending this podcast right now, I really feel like this is not just for mothers. It's really funny, but I would say like anybody who is listening to the podcast will get the benefit, because it's really like regulating your hormones and trying to relax yourself, calm yourself, and who doesn't need it?
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So using these techniques in any situation where you're feeling stuck and kind of anxious, anybody could use these techniques. I mean, I'm just waiting to use one of these techniques. I'm definitely gonna do 4 seconds inhale and 8 seconds I'm really waiting to do that, and then I'm gonna let you know how I feel.
Amazing. I'm glad. to
Thank
hear
you
it.
so
Okay.
much for joining me
Thank
today, and
you,
this was like I
Jacob.
had so much of information myself. I'm sure
Yeah.
the listeners are going to enjoy this.
Thank you.
Thanks a
It's been
lot.
such a pleasure. I've loved meeting you and the little one and your
Yeah.
family. So I really appreciate it. Anytime, reach out.
Thank you so much.
Thank